welcome everyone to another episode of HR and Payroll 2.0. I'm Pete Tiliakis, and as always, I'm joined by the legendary Julie Fernandez. Welcome, Julie.
Thanks, Pete. I think we both landed back to our home grounds yesterday after some traveling, so we got some news to share.
Yeah. We got a lot of news to share. I don't know if we can even get it. We almost need 2 episodes for this, but we're going to try to get it into one. And I'm going to apologize in advance if I fall asleep during this one. I'm pretty tired. I got to be honest with you. I'm pretty tired. So.
Well, you still do the red eyes. I cut those out at 50.
Yeah. Oh, no way, man.
They beat me up these days.
I'm a glutton. Yeah.
I did take a 5 a.m. flight out, though, and I felt like dog doo the whole rest of the next day. I'm not sure it was any better.
Yeah, I feel like I can still, I managed to still work. So it works out good for me. I feel more productive. And I got to stick around. And I don't know if you remember this last year, but not last year. I guess it would have been 2023. Yeah, 2 years ago, maybe. Not this HR tech. The HR tech before that. I made friends with the gentleman that was protecting us, I guess, the door liaison guy, the security guard. And he and I have become really good friends. And I went over to his house last night. We had dinner. I met his family. It was great. Point here is shout out to my boy Alfonso in Vegas. Great guy, best dude ever. You make friends in the strangest places, and HR tech brought us together. So just thought I'd bring that up.
Way to go.
I know, right? So that was what I was sticking around for, was to hang out with my boy Alfonso. But hey, I want to point this out, Julie. So I was in Vegas this week, as most of the analysts were, for 2 events. We had UKG Aspire at one end in the Mandalay Bay, and we had Dayforce Discover.
Yeah,
they changed it. Yes, Dayforce Discover over in the Wynn, the beautiful Wynn. And so we got to get 2 contrasting updates. So that's one of the things we're going to share this week. I've also got some EOR news that just flurried out here in the last few weeks. But I wanted to highlight something that I noticed. I want your opinion of this. I really love the mainstream nature of HR now, right? We've seen Workday with their Rockstar commercials.
Yeah.
Right. We've got like plenty of tennis now, golf with HR technology companies. We've got Paycor on the Cincinnati Bengals stadium, right? I mean, I love that. And I thought it was really cool. And I'm sure others have done this, but Dayforce had kind of taken over the sphere during the week and had their stuff up there. And I thought that was really cool to just sort of look at that and think like, 20 years ago, that would have been unheard of, right? For a golfer to have Workday, right? Or Dayforce to be on the most, optical thing in Vegas, the hottest ticket for a concert, is in the sphere. So,
You're feeling like we're a little bit more mainstream, huh?
It is, right? Like, I mean, look, we have a podcast that people, thankfully, we're blessed. A lot of people listen to, and in 30 plus countries, which always blows my mind. And I just think like, wow, it's kind of cliche, but HR has come a long way,
Oh, yeah, for sure. And payroll within that.
Yeah.
And, as we're sharing today, I know I normally would have been in the same place you were, but instead I stripped off and I went to Atlanta.
Yeah.
So we were crossing ships in the night, and now that's your home base. And normally we would have hooked up there a little bit, but did a shared services conference in Atlanta as well. And I'm going to be excited to talk about what kind of participation we got out of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you want to do? You want to do events and updates first, or should we do the news a little bit and then get into those?
Your choice.
All right, let's do the news because we can go through those kind of quickly, if you will. But I'm excited to hear about the SSO win. I'm jealous. I've never been to one of their events.
We've talked about us both being there.
I have pointed more clients towards that just from what I've heard of those events than I have ever been to. So SSO win needs to get with me as one of their ambassadors.
All right. Well, we'll save that for the last. Why don't you jump us into news? I think you were going to start with EOR providers, right? Employer of record.
Yep. The employer of record space has heated up. There was just a bevy of a flurry of news that came out. I thought we could share those. I guess starting off, Globalization Partners, GP, as they're known now, has introduced a deeper set of use cases for GIA, their global compliance advisor, right? Their AI-enabled advisor. Now, they're calling it the world's first AI-based global HR compliance advisor. I think there's probably debate on that. I know there's some solutions out there that might claim some of this.
We've even had some podcast guests who have talked about what they're doing in compliance too, right?
Yeah, everybody's doing it. But really, I think what you're seeing here is just the activation of, their rich data and expertise being contextualized and providing, surfacing support back to customers, whether that be, and generative too, right? I mean, giving the capability to help with editing documents like policies and contracts and handbooks, and really automating tasks around everything from talent acquisition to just the HR administrivia of administering a global workforce, immigration guidance, right? Giving you, good insights on making decisions about, this country or that country. And then, of course, something that I'm seeing more and more of, I don't know if you've seen this, Julie, but some of my EOR providers are starting to do offboarding services.
Right.
There's a compliance element that can be rich to that and angst to that when you're in certain countries. And so, again, here, GIA is going to help you with that as well. So a step in that generative direction for what I think is the power of EOR, and that is their insights, their speed to market, and the ability to help you access talent fast. So
Yeah.
all of what we would expect to see.
Awesome stuff from GP, and of course they've been in the market a while, and they got what it takes to start to make some of that happen.
Yeah, they're aggressive over there. So, coming along the lines of aggressive innovators, Deel, back in the news again. I feel like every episode when we have a news, we've got a list of stuff to go through. But I'm really, really excited for this. This, I think, is unique. I'm going to call it the first. I don't know who else is doing this yet. Embedded EOR. So, the embedded concept. I just came back from Money 2020, and embedded payments, embedded finance, embedded payroll. All these things are incredibly the norm, if you will, over on the fintech world. So makes total sense to be bringing EOR to systems that it could support and help and enhance, right? Business systems that aren't necessarily enabled with HR type capabilities. I think this is just a really nice enabler and fit to that sort of trend, right, of global payroll becoming embedded.
Do you have an example of what you would embed EOR into? Are we talking about like a finance, an ERP tool, or
Yeah, you could. I think more
some examples
immediately.
out here? Yeah.
Yeah, more immediately, I think you're going to see this in the staffing industry. You'll probably see this in the recruiting world, where
Okay.
they're very much, the EORs are largely coming at this from a let us be the vehicle to employ, but not
Right.
necessarily saying, hey, let us help you find the talent. Not all of them will do that. Now, Deel has some services for that. And there are others who have come at EOR from that angle saying, look, we were a contingent workforce solution, or we were a long-time IC provider, and now we're turning on EOR with that. Whereas I think in this case, Deel is taking their infrastructure and embedding it and creating also a reseller program, a white label program around that, so that companies that maybe, again, I would say this would be really ideal for your staffing agencies, your contingent workforce kind of MSP providers, could now embed really an EOR and payroll capability in their marketplace solution and their VMS type solutions, and extend their business, right, and extend the value to their customers. So
Yeah.
I think
Or
that's just the beginning, but all these same use cases for maybe other HR embedded.
maybe even workforce planning, right? Where you have really
Yeah,
a people intensive business and you have some
yeah,
advanced workforce planning. Cool.
yeah,
All right.
totally,
Awesome.
totally.
Yeah. I'm not surprised you have Deal in your list. Let's keep going.
Yeah, yeah. Now going away from maybe an innovation topic here, but a funding topic, and I think this is one that's really interesting, is Oyster, right? Who is right in there with Deel and Remote and some of the rising stars in the space. Got an investment from ServiceNow, which is really intriguing because you're thinking, ServiceNow obviously has a ventures portfolio where they're making investments. But I think they're saying, hey, obviously their technology is all about the work experience, right? The worker experience when you're dealing with many systems and tickets and that sort of thing. And now bringing fundamentally some more HR into their world. So
Yeah.
interesting
And
there.
EOR in particular. Yeah. Interesting
Yeah.
place to start.
Yeah. I think we've seen a bit of that, right? Big tech has inched its way over into HR, right? Facebook has a little bit of a play. Microsoft absolutely has a play. So why not ServiceNow? The adjacencies they have are just
Well, and just
beautiful.
even from an experience perspective, I mean, ServiceNow has been front and center for so long, eking over from its IT roots, right? Its
Yeah.
supply chain roots,
Yeah.
on into HR modules and, a lot of large organizations, that's their go-to. So no
Yeah, yeah.
surprise.
And now it's I mean, in recent years, they've really just blasted through the HR space. They, for so long, ServiceNow was an IT solution, right? It was an
Yeah.
IT
Yeah.
ticketing solution. Now it's almost unheard of not to find it in an enterprise organization when it comes to the HR side. So yeah,
Yeah. And
really
many of
makes
the
sense.
many of the outsourcers have used that as a foundation for some of their workflow enablement, right? So
Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
no surprise. Okay, all
Yeah.
right, cool for Oyster. What else you got?
And yeah, I guess to round this out, this little pop of EOR news, congratulations is in order to remote and iSolved. So as we've probably know or we've talked about, iSolved has been looking to really extend their HCM capability beyond just the US. In the ability to support customers with a multi-country need. Now, iSolved has no ambitions right now of storming off into other countries, but they do want to support their customers that have a compliance need, a payroll need, maybe an employment EOR type need in different locations, right? Especially, I think they've seen some rise in Mexico. I know they've even got their own footprint in Colombia. So there's some nearshore and even offshore. I think UK is big. That was a gap for them, right? It was limiting them in a lot of ways and creating a situation where they couldn't compete for certain customers that had that multi-country footprint. So I was really proud to work very closely with them on this. And they came to the first step of that. I think they're going to be creating a little bit of a marketplace here for customers, but they've announced their first partner will be remote, which I think is huge, right? The global EOR provider, very much a darling of the industry like Oyster or Deel, very fast rising, innovative group. What I think really pushed them over the edge here was their global payroll capability. A lot of people don't know this, but they brought in Jonathan Goldsmith. Shout out to him. He came in from Sage, the former Fairsail platform, Sage People, and has really brought a lot of vision to their global payroll capability. He and I have stayed close. I've been watching what they're doing, and I think they really brought that along. I saw the product at HR Tech, and it was beautiful. So shout out to them. That's a big win, right? To bubble up as one of the first providers, and I think it's indicative of that leadership and vision and what they've put into their product. So definitely keep an eye on that.
Yeah, so just to be clear, the shout out is iSolved pairing up with remote in order to extend some of its to some of the
Yeah,
global
my shout out is to
capability
remote
needs.
for as I think they really rose to the top in this in terms of just their tech, their vision, where they're going, what they could offer, and so yeah, I just think it's a nice win for EOR and a nice boost for the iSolved ecosystem, an ecosystem that's already rich with maturity, just rabid clients for the product. They love that product. They remind me so much of the ultimate software days, 8 years ago when they were in their youth. And there's a lot of that similar vibe. And I think iSolve's got everything they need to be a very, very formidable solution. And now this just plugs a gap that they had. So
Yeah, I think at some future time, maybe we'll talk a little bit about, with some of that success and
yeah.
robustness, how, are they growing up market and is
Yeah,
that even
not
the
not
plan?
not so much. I think they're sticking in that mid-market, small employer, but yeah, no, they're doing very well, and I think it's a great product. So yeah,
Okay, well, congrats,
yeah.
remote. Great
I
way
know.
to rise to
Congrats
the
to
top.
both, man. And hey, look, congrats to the EOR space, right? I mean, it's I think it's entering a new phase, right, of where now it's kind of gotten away from that the work from home panic from COVID to now being more of a strategic talent enabler and organizational agility enabler. So I'm excited for it, and I think you're going to see more of this automation, activation of insights, APIs, that sort of thing. So more to come.
All right, let's move on to the big ones, right? And the kind of the focus of last week, which is these clients who have adopted
Yeah.
an HCM and are kind of bought in, and so they're spending less of their time in the HR techs and more of their time in the
Yeah.
big client conferences for the product that is their
Yeah. So I
strategic
got the
enabler.
privilege of going to UKG Aspire again. We had a nice private session or a nice private day, I guess you could say, in addition to keynotes with them. I thought it was kind of cool, Julie. At their keynote, they kicked off with almost like a use case, a few use case portrayals. Somewhat, I guess they were actors, but they were acting out kind of a day in the life, in an office scene, and whatever around hiring and surfacing, people ready for promotion. And I thought it was pretty cool, just a different way of kind of presenting and bringing to life what they're trying to solve, and it seemed to resonate. So that was really cool.
It's very engaging, right? It's far more engaging than some of the usual ways to open a.
Yeah. So look, let's talk UKG, and
All
I'm going to
right,
go really slow
we
here
got.
because I'll be honest with you. There is a ton. They packed. I mean, it really. We did this in a day. This is normally a day and a half. I think it could have taken two. The roadmap alone, the product discussions alone could have been a full day. So I'm going to do my best to do this really slowly and hopefully answer every question you have, Julie. But let's just start off with what I think was glaringly apparent and different about this Aspire from others, and that is the new leadership. Right? You've probably seen it. We've got Jennifer Morgan, CEO. We've got a new president and Rachel Barger, both from big tech, SAP and Cisco, I think it was. And announced just while we were there, Julie, a new CFO, also from tech, Arlen Shankman, who is a notable CFO in the space from coming over from Boomi. So, you just look at that right there and you say, like many HCM and many HR tech or any sector really, solutions or companies that are going to scale, what takes you to one level of leadership takes you to one level of revenues, doesn't take you to the next, right? And so I think that's what you're seeing. I think you're seeing a big tech infusion of leadership. There's a ton of energy around that. There's a ton of focus. I think we heard from Jennifer Morgan, the CEO, that she feels very confident about what they have. She doesn't see burning problems. She sees more of a need to really just accelerate the good that's already there. So I think that was, and I would agree. I think UKG, they've had a little bit of some hiccups, right, with the ransomware thing.
I was just going to say that kind of implies a
Yeah.
set, the two of those organizations coming together. Yeah, because that was no small affair, and it's taken quite a while to, just kind of smooth out how everything, the interoperability of everything.
Yeah.
So Ultimate plus Kronos, was a big thing, and they've done a lot to bring clients, products, services together, and so that's something that the new leadership, that's not the main focus for them, right? They'll be able to move forward.
And I think one of the things that was, look, the business is healthy. They've got about 80,000 clients now, 150 countries, arguably one of the most global, if not the most global, workforce management capability around. Yeah, 4.7 billion in revenues now. That's incredible. And Julie, UKG's processing, I think I wrote this down right, 200 billion in payroll. So they're a formidable payroll product that I don't know that everyone realizes in that way. So yeah, good stuff. But look, I'll tell you one thing I think is very refreshing, because I'd be curious to hear what you think about this. I mean, I know customer experience has been a bit of a challenge. I've seen it from some folks. Obviously, again, the ransomware thing might have been part of it, the merger, the angst of that. But they are very, very focused on all in for the customer was the moniker used. There's they're taking some new approaches to how they're addressing that. They've got their partners for life capability, or excuse me, mantra, and they've really customized, I think, the customer service and layered it for each of their product sets and markets, right? So your smaller companies, your larger companies. I think down market, you're going to see a little bit more of an automated sort of experience, whereas up market, it might be a little bit more hands-on, just given the complexities. But so that's a big, big piece. But what are your thoughts on that? I mean, what are your thoughts on just customer experience on that side and what you're seeing?
Well, I think largely because some of the things that have been happening, right? Whether you go to the combination of the two companies, or just sheer growth, right? Turnover. So hard to be all in for the customer and also kind of shift resourcing
Yeah.
and sales territories and sales sizes, and like things shift and change, sometimes annually, sometimes in between, and so that's that I think is just a natural challenge that comes with growth and success. And some of the ways that UKG has not only come together, but is building now together forward, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm much for that.
the thing is, I think we have to remember too is, and they pointed this out, right? They were largely still operating as two
Yeah,
separate
that's right.
support systems, right? And I think that was part of it. So that's been brought together and harmonized under Bob Del Ponte, which, by the way, been there. Right? He's a longtime Kronos guy, leading that side, and also using some AI now on the back end for COE type capabilities and supporting their customers, especially in implementation, which is huge for data movement, data migration. Obviously partners are going to be a big part. This is something they pointed out heavily in this customer experience, is that partners are going to be very critical to helping with the change management element of all of this. But also, again, just very, very focused on being customer led. Like I said, they've sort of segmented out that service focus for each level, and just doing everything they can to get their CSAT coming up, and it is trending upward, which I thought was really, really good. So kudos to them,
Yeah, and
making
I love
progress.
all of that, and the fact that they've really emphasized and brought Ready together. We spoke about that in our last news update for the down market and then up market. So there are different buyers and different needs. I also would say there's always folks that hang in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So when I'm advising, there are a lot of folks that, you just kind of wait and see, much like other of their competitors that have multiple, choices in solution. Some it's going to be very clear, and for others it's not clear at all.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you could go either way. And so there's a challenge that comes with that, and figuring out what is that in between space, and how clear is it, which side of the fence you go to,
Yeah.
for a ready or for a pro.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you, they have sharpened that. That was actually a key slide in the deck they showed us. And you're right. They do have, they expect that again, that down market segment is going to be a bit more centered around technology and self-service. Whereas the enterprise, they're going to be leaning a lot or partnering closely with their partners to enable vertical solutions and fill gaps and address things. And the mid-market obviously is going to be a bit of a blend. So yeah, just a very renewed focus here. So
Yeah. Not sure if they gave any renewed or updated, kind of like how big.
the market sizes?
Yeah, the market
Yeah,
sizes in Ready
so
and Pro, because there's
SMB,
often a realignment of that,
yeah,
right?
SMB is generally going to be 200 and below. No, that didn't really change. Mid is 2 to 2500, and then they've got enterprise at 2500 and above. So I think that's still the same, pretty much. Yeah.
So were they fairly clear in aligning like a Ready with one or both of those segments, or is that middle
Well,
segment?
Ready could play. Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on the company. Ready could probably play in that middle segment too, no problem. I mean, as strong as it is, right, and all the bright stuff and the great places to work now integrated. We talked about that a few months ago. I think they announced that at HR Tech. Yeah, it's maturing, and it's got a huge footprint of adoption, and just a gaining satisfaction and retention rate too. So yeah,
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 I think
totally.
it's that mid space where you get into, more choices, and even north of 2,500, where potentially Ready could be
It
the right
probably
thing to
still
start
could.
attacking
Yeah,
that.
I
Yeah.
think so. And I think that, as mature as it's getting, I wonder when they blend. You know what I mean?
That's exactly my point, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, sorry,
When
I
do
don't
they
want to
blend?
belabor this. I know you got
No,
tons
no,
more.
no,
Let's
no.
keep
It's
moving.
okay. So now let's kind of get into product. And there was a lot. So I'm not going to go over all of it. We'll never have enough time. But just suffice it to say that Bright is absolutely in action. And UKG Bright is their AI agents, their connected agents, their I would argue, or no, I mean, they are agentic, right? I don't know if everyone is familiar with agentic AI. Agentic AI is more of the AI sort of, think of like when you're in HR and payroll, you're processing various different processes and steps and checklists, and there's handoffs, and sometimes there are things that have to happen in one system or another. I think agentic is going to be that AI that is going to bring together those things and string that reasoning together to take that action autonomously, one step to the next, handoff to the next. There's other examples you could find out there that are real world. I think I read one time that an autonomous driving car would be a good example of agentic, right? It's assessing a lot of data and making decisions based on what it knows and what it's been taught. So I think you're going to see that, right? And when you think about the lanes that UKG can play in with workforce management, with human capital management, both operationally and strategically and talent wise, there's a lot of that needs to be connected and brought together to string data and string experiences together across. Like we talk about leaves all the time, right? There's so much opportunity for agentic here. So you're going to see a lot of that theme, I think, in what's coming from them and the use cases that they're solving. So let's just maybe break down a few things that I thought was really cool. So starting out with, and these are some of the ones you can go and see publicly as far as announcements, but like they have a new AI-enabled talent marketplace. It's going to drive things like AI-driven skills development. It's going to support internal mobility and help people, path their careers and the learning they need to get to that path or whatever that destination is. It's going to be create much more of a kind of a gig style experience for people to pull frontline knowledge and workers into diverse roles and maybe projects on the fly, as well as give you sort of that talent development and internal mobility support that companies need to be developing people. So that's a key one. Let's talk about the agents, right? They've got a number of Bright AI agents. Now, this is going to be your think Copilot, think agentic, right? These are going to be autonomous agents that are able to go out there and take multi-step complex processes and string them together with decision making across the suite. So again, any sort of use case that you can imagine where there's a handoff, right? Recruiting would be a good one, right? Because recruiting becomes onboarding at some point. Onboarding becomes day one planning and so on, right? Meeting your team and beginning to do things as a manager or an employee. So there's lots of processes that can be strung together. And then, of course, obviously surfacing data back to the users. Great places to work data, which is super unique about their platform, is just getting sprinkled in everywhere and really bringing it back to the surface for users, and especially those frontline managers, to make decisions. What else? The other thing I thought was cool, Julie, they will have a new addition to the global payroll solution, which is going to be, I want to make sure I read these correctly. So they've already got OneView Connect, right?
Right.
Which is fundamentally,
when that came through, right?
It's fundamentally allowing you to bring in all of your data from wherever you're processing it, wherever your in-country partners or whatever. Maybe it's a mix of your UKG system or Immedius, presumably, I guess now UKG, and your external partners. You can bring that data in. You can validate that data, automate the flow of information, and have that harmonized view. That's Connect. Managed, obviously, was their fully managed capability, but now they also have OneView Direct. And OneView Direct is saying, look, we can go a step further now, and you can not only integrate those ICPs and bring their data in, but we will actually be able to process from within our system, regardless of whether it's your ICP or ours. So they're calling it a bring your own partner sort of solution. So it just takes the level of the layers of engagement, I think, up from just connecting and bringing data into now orchestrating payroll or going fully managed. So Direct, OneView Direct will be that new solution fitting in there in between the fully outsourced and just bringing data in.
Yeah, and
Good stuff.
it sounds like in that the intent of that is to bring any of your existing partners, that they're not limited.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are requirements, right, that they have to pass data back and forth in certain ways or follow certain protocols to be able to do that. But it's something that has been a differentiator for others in the market for a little while, and so that is always helpful, because it's really not realistic to move every single one of your countries
Yeah.
into a brand new model, right away, at least, if ever. And so I got to believe that'll be really, really well received.
Hey everybody, Tim Sackett, host of HR Famous, a new podcast on the Work Defined Network. Am I famous? No, I'm HR famous. My wife says I'm a micro celebrity, and 13 HR ladies around the world want their picture with me, which I think is funny. So, hey, what do we talk about on the pod? We talk about all the dumb stuff we do in HR in any given day, week, month, and we have fun with it, and we have some great guests. Come check us out. We're not famous. We're HR famous.
Yeah, no, I think it will too. And I think it's just indicative of the options people want and the flexibility and agility that they want in solving, for global payroll. So, and look, this is, a very beautiful complement to their WFM and to their HCM. So yeah, they're in great shape. And listen, I did clarify, I was curious to see if they were still selling to non-UKG customers. And they said, yeah, they can. And they do from time to time. There are customers who are using that. So, hey, look, if you're a Workday customer, you can still use, you could use OneView, apparently. And I think that's good, right? You want to keep that open. And I'm sure they still have tons of customers in different pockets of HCM. So.
Yeah, I think as always, it's a little bit on the hush hush, right? No matter who it is, but when push comes to shove, a lot of times, you can do a little bit of mix and match.
Yeah, look, in this world, with everything as integrated as it obviously is, I think that that this sort of extensibility and flexibility is basically the part of the benefits of that, right? And why not? Why shouldn't you be able to shape what you need for your business, right, or your needs? So yeah, I love it. It's good stuff.
All right.
What else? I tell you what else we did there too. So obviously, let me give you some bits on Ready. So Ready's getting stronger. Like I said, obviously integrated with Bright. It's got integrations now to the data for OneView, and also you've got your integration to an infusion of the Great Places to Work data. So back to our point about Ready being incredibly strong. I think it's got all the pieces and parts it needs to mature, and I kind of wonder when they're gonna meet in the middle, right? At some point, and so I think you're gonna see more things like that, more use cases. Some of the key things I thought was pretty cool. They did introduce this one thing called the search and act, right? It's the ability to kind of bridge contextual requests with the next best action is the way I would describe it. And again, using all that rich data they have, helping managers, those frontline managers and frontline workers be most effective and productive, I think is what the goal here is. Yeah, but lots of that, lots of this, man, just, big emphasis on data. We talked about data a lot. And also, Julie, you'll appreciate this. I think, there's also a very big push by UKG on sectors and industry. That's where I think the partners are going to help. But don't forget, they have a big part of that covered already on the WFM side. So, they're able to accommodate a lot of sticky, gnarly sectors, right? The manufacturing, the healthcare, all of those challenging spaces where scheduling and such are a problem. So let's talk roadmap maybe for a second. Here's a couple of things I think you might get excited about. The first is going to be a new OneView compliance hub. It's going to be a command center for customers to actually manage exceptions, compliance types of exceptions in real time, and sort and deal with changes at the country level. So that's going to be nice. And I think you could see, maybe there's a compliance as a service type thing coming out of these types of solutions at some point, maybe.
Or even just a calendar, right? When I think of a payroll calendar, I'm pretty sure it was CloudPay. I don't remember who was kind of focused on a compliance calendar, once upon a day. But when you do these kinds of focusing and you have a hub, then all of a sudden, you're bringing great visibility to things that have been just embedded in other processes before.
Yeah.
So I think buyers are really interested in that.
Yeah. Well, along that lines, they've also got a continuous compliance agent that is going to be introduced as well later in 2025. These are 2025 items, by the way. You've got that agent, and now that's cool, right? I mean, that's going to help with your continuous compliance for payroll administrators to quickly get tax compliance analysis and updates, and also answers to questions, right? Instead of having to kind of track that down and research it. So again, along that agentic kind of autonomous support, that's the type of thing I think you're seeing come in. And then another thing that I think is kind of interesting, Julie, they're offering something now that's going to come again in 2025, what they call multi-byte support in UKG Pro, which basically simplifies the process of supporting, I'm reading this now, global employees with multi-byte languages and localization formats for global profile data, ensuring that data accuracy and entry and compliance across regions. So I would argue that is a deeper localization support within UKG Pro, and going to bring, just round out all that compliance emphasis that they're putting on here. So I love that. All right. So that's a lot, right? I mean, I could keep going on and on, right? I won't.
We got to keep it moving.
We got to keep it moving.
We'll weave it into other conversations.
I do want to end on this though, about the conference. One of the things we got to do was at the end, we got to talk to, I think it was like 8 of the UKG Labs cohort of founders. So these are incubated solutions that UKG is engaging with. And in this case, they were all financial wellness. And I thought it was really interesting that they all had very unique use cases they were supporting. Our good friend Jason Lee was up there with Salt. I thought the team from Muse, MUSE, was interesting. They have a solution, Julie, that will help you maximize your tax return sort of refund during the year. So almost taking it as you go by recalculating and making sure you're optimizing your deductions so that you're getting that money sooner than later. So almost like a earned wage access for tax refund at the end of the year. So I thought that was interesting. But what I found fascinating when I was sitting there I think I've showed you, or maybe you've seen me present my Payroll Everywhere concept a few years ago. I actually think every one of these use cases are somewhat leaning into that concept and need to come together as a super app. So they like that idea, but I don't know how feasible that is. But yeah, I thought it was a good, interesting viewpoint of how each of these young firms are tackling financial wellness. And I'm going to do something separate of my own. I don't know if I'm going to write this or if I'm going to do a video on it, but I want to talk my Payroll Everywhere point of view, and I want to talk it in context with what these guys are doing and try to bring some thoughts to that. So I thought it was really interesting.
All right, let's move on, because I know you got a whole other end of the strip, right?
Yes. Let me grab my notes here on Dayforce, right? So obviously a big part of this year's event is the fact that they're not Ceridian anymore, right? They spent a good 20 minutes actually updating us on how that was going. And I think, I'll say this, Julie, and you tell me what you think. I thought that, I feel like Ceridian had, and obviously now they're Dayforce, their flagship solution. I think that they have, more so than any vendor, really stayed true to their core, in a very protective way and a very smart way, in such that I think they have gone and made a lot of really smart, keen investments, a lot of keen structuring of their platform and their stack and their data model, to where that foundational element of their core solution, the localizations, the way the data is structured and the way it flows across the applications, is now setting up that ability for them to really go off and they blocked and tackled really well, to where now they can set up their touchdowns over on the talent side with that data. And just take Dayforce intelligence to a whole other level in each of their apps. So I think they've done a lot of really good work in that regard. I think they've stayed very, very aggressive on that operational side, where some of their peers have gone and kind of chased the squirrel, if you will, or the shiny bug with talent, and maybe neglected some of the core side. I think Dayforce never took their eye off that ball in in the same way that UKG did, and have really leaned into that. So it shows, I think. So. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really fair thing to say. And in a world where senior leaders, have a tendency to want to talk about talent, and of course recruiting is such a critical item, right? So there's a lot of conversation
Yeah.
that leads toward some of those strategic, talenty, people-y stuff. But if you don't have the core right, how do you build on something where the core is not as robust as it needs to be, right? And I'm not sure, that it's hard to remember, because Dayforce has come so far, that they really started with the nuts and bolts of workforce management, or time, all the hard, sticky time and payroll stuff,
Yeah.
right? And so that has been solid. It's remained solid. It's been very robust, and that's the hard stuff. So I feel like that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
Gives them a good foundation to really ratchet up and grow, which is, I think, where their mindset is right now.
Yeah.
And their targets and ambitions, and they think they're ready to kind of hyperscale this,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And make their moves, and it's rock solid
Yeah.
at the
Well, and
core.
the best part is, right, the data is there for them to really start I hate to use this word, but actionabilizing that against their large language models and their AI. And again, like you would expect, agents and co-pilots were very much front and center at the show. They offered up or mentioned a number of them that they've put out there for productivity and automation, for simplifying complexity. Their moniker is making I think it's making the simple or hard simple. And I think they're doing that, right? They're really surfacing a lot of insights in the flow, to help you make good actions, and get things quickly, and really personalize the experiences, obviously. So a lot of emphasis there. Julie, you'll appreciate this. They're bringing out Dave.
Hey, but wait a
Yeah,
minute,
go
you
ahead.
can't. You got to say, like, their moniker is really like makes work life better, right?
Sorry, did I get it wrong?
Yeah.
Aren't they? Oh, my bad. Sorry. Am I saying the wrong one? They're making, but don't they always talk about
Well,
making
you know
simple?
what? I don't
Sorry.
know. New year, new name. Now the conference is now Discover, so maybe they snuck a new one in, and I wasn't there
Yeah, my
yet.
bad. I apologize. The bottom line is they're trying to make this stuff a lot easier. You
Yeah.
shouldn't have to be an HR genius to get to go and take a day off, which has historically been the way systems were. Right, you had to be an expert at the system, and I just love the way they're augmenting. But I want to go back to this piece that I think you're going to be really hyped about, and that is the new Dayforce Strategic Workforce Planning. I know a number of us were really excited to see that. It's going to have forecasting capabilities, obviously going to give you, a view of your complete workforce, and be able to hone in on skill shortages, labor demand, scheduling. So a lot of good stuff here, I think. Very strategic type capabilities for a much more larger enterprise type customer, right? Which they're aiming
You know
for.
what? Could be very right thing at the very right time, because
Yeah.
as we've noted in other podcast episodes where we're chatting, like the focus on hourly workforce and some of the grit that is needed in order to, handle unions, handle, scheduling tools and so forth, is has become an area of focus
Yeah.
by clients. And it's not where everybody started. Everybody started with the salaried workforces. Everybody has, they all have access to internet and devices and everything else. And we're seeing so much more focus on the hourly workforce, that workforce planning and building on that, great robust complexity that you have is feels like a natural to me.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Totally agree with that. It's yeah. It's exciting times. I mean, this stuff is it's great, man. It's nice to see these things coming online and employers getting these really strong capabilities, you know? And then also another one they announced was the Dayforce Communications, which is a sort of a centralized location for scaling your communications outward to your employees. It's obviously going to help you with, staying in touch with folks, making sure, obviously, that you are, communicating effectively, keeping your teams informed, bringing messages to your organization, and certainly doing that maybe with then AI tools and enhanced augmentative capabilities there as well. So we're seeing a little bit more of these, right? These capabilities coming online. I think I can't remember if it was UKG or someone else showed us one of these too as well. So
Well,
big part of their
it's
role,
really
right?
super interesting to me because in advisory, we often end up in the middle of conversations. Everybody wants to think about experience and boost these things up. And when more and more products or even sections of the market start to think about things like communications, then you start to have some questions about where do I put that functionality? Do I put it in my core HR system if that's the core for me? Do I put it in my total rewards solution because I need pushing and things to happen there? Do I put it in, benefits? It's kind of like
Yeah.
this service now and figuring out where do I need to put workflow and portal and escalations and what are the advantages of doing it, in a one tool versus doing it in my native integrated suite.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the answer is not the same for everybody, right?
Right.
So that's always been front and center in the advisory conversations with clients is, well, there's not just one way to do it. And which things do you have and how do you want to put them together?
Agreed. Yeah, I would agree. And I think things like this too, like are really slanted towards that frontline worker, right? Because you've got so many folks that are deskless.
Yes.
They're not necessarily going to get a memorandum, right? I mean, maybe a better way to reach them is to pop up something on a mobile app, or have a community. That I think that's another thing that this supports as well. If I'm not mistaken, I can't remember if it was. I think it's communities, maybe not ERGs, but it will allow you to communicate around groups of people, maybe a certain shift or a certain skill set group or something like that. So just getting smarter about how we disseminate communications to and from employees and keep everyone informed, right, and keep everyone on the same. Especially as we got more remote work, right? We've been doing some talking about remote work. These things are going to be more and more valid
Yeah.
in their use cases. So, but yeah, look, I think you're going to see a lot more agents coming from more of the use cases around connected agents and co-pilots coming from Dayforce. I think they said they're doing a Mexico template too, a calc engine for payroll. I think,
Yeah, that has been in the works for a
yeah,
little while,
Germany
I
as
think.
well. Germany as
Yeah.
well. So I think they would give them 10, right? 10 native or maybe more,
That sounds about right.
something
You
like that,
got
maybe
most of the
12.
US speaking now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, so I think that's good. And then obviously there, one of the things I did poke around on, Julia, with a little bit was the Dayforce Flex Work. I don't know if you remember them launching that last year. Think of it as a VMS style direct sourcing gig type talent pool capability, but they would also comes with the services for that worker. So not quite PEO. There's not a transfer of liability or employment, but it is a care and feeding, so to speak, of their administrivia. And right now it's only available in Florida. It's generally available in Florida. But it will be going later to other places, and I could see this being pairing very nicely with their global capabilities and their just their core infrastructure. So, and let's don't forget they have very, very strong workforce management, right? Not known, I don't think, as a standalone workforce management solution, but incredibly formidable for that stack. Yeah.
So, you're jogging my memory now. Is that similar to like what's it called? Work market that ADP has?
Yeah, kind of. But I think this goes a
Only,
step further.
just kind
Yeah, to
of
include the
okay.
services. But yeah, something along that line. More, but a bit of maybe a little bit like Vinly in some ways.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
Probably.
Same.
Yeah.
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 They all probably fall in the same category,
Yeah.
right?
But it's got that mechanism of being able to sort of not employ them, but be able to at least take care of them from payroll, time, that sort of thing. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where that evolves. I think that's a unique solution for them. So, but yeah. What else? Yeah. Oh, I will tell you this. They did mention, Julie, Dayforce has been pushing up market for some time now. They're maturing. They're getting pulled up market.
Yes,
The global
absolutely. That
stuff
is
helped
true.
that. They mentioned they
Yep.
have a customer they've signed that is nearly 500,000 workers, and I think they got about 50K live, about 250 coming. So that's impressive. And they demonstrated Henkel, who is a customer
Uh-huh.
example on stage, that had 55,000 employees in 40 countries. So absolutely coming up market and doing
I
very
bet that
well.
was Greg. Was that Greg Isaacs that was on
I
stage?
don't remember. I think it
I've
was a
been
video.
involved
I think it was a video.
with Henkel from the start.
Yeah.
So I actually have had the privilege of being involved in a number of their high profile
Yeah.
global clients. So yeah, definitely doing great things and expanding.
Are you tired of talent and HR podcasts that sound like corporate training videos? Same. Talentless is the no-fluff show about hiring, leadership, culture, and what's actually going on in the world of work. Talentless is a podcast for recruiters by recruiters. Hosted by Desiree Goldie and Ashley King, they're smart, occasionally salty, and never afraid to say what everyone else is thinking. Listen wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe at talentlesspodcast.com.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, well, look, I think you're going to see more. Look for more AI, more agents, more co-pilots. Already have autonomous agents writing job descriptions and time off exceptions, I think is what they had. Tons of predictive insights. So yeah, I think you're going to see that. And I think you could also, they did say they're considering looking at a compliance as a service type solution as well. Would make total sense, right? I think it might even make sense for UKG. Yeah, I think this is good stuff, man. I'm excited to see what Dayforce is doing, and shout out to them for giving us analysts a bit more updates. We're getting a better flow of updates now, so hopefully can give you more updates here on the show about what's going on over at Dayforce. So congrats to them, and thanks for having us.
Yeah, awesome.
So what else? So you tell me about shared services and outsourcing. I'm still jealous. I've never been.
I know. Well, when COVID hit, this organization pared back, and they used to do 2 HR specific conference events, and then of course they have their main events, which are the Shared Services and Outsourcing Week, which are global business services tailored, right? So HR is there, but they're one of finance and supply chain and other back office areas, and in large employers are folks that are really pushing the shared services envelope. Eventually you do structurally put yourself into a global services model, right? Um, and so having everybody there can be helpful because maybe you have more than one, you have HR and finance and shared services, for example. So the HR shared service event that's specific for HR is back. I've been talking to them about it for years since COVID, saying, please bring this back. It's well loved. It's well attended, and its heyday, it's always attracted maybe 125 or so, HR practitioners, HR leaders, folks that are charged with or thinking about or in the path, in the journey for HR transformation. It was in Atlanta just this last week, and I would say, amazingly well attended. And we know exactly how many folks it could bring in for this Atlanta November event, and I figured maybe 60 would be a good show. We had to add chairs to the room, and there were, probably a good strong 80 or more, HR leaders there. So super exciting. And the other thing that was very, very interesting is early on in the main event day, our MC, who was Steph Ernstine from AmeriCorps, she asked folks to show whether they were first timers at the event or just starting their shared services journey. And really, there were probably over half of the room, were just starting to get into a shared services industry event like this.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
that's much more than, these events. I see the same companies over and over. They send multiple folks of their teams over and over again. So from a fresh, new faces, folks that are, finding peers to be a really important and valued source of information. There's a huge interest out there, I would say. And this is a great conference for them to go to.
Hey, Julie, do you see more Do you see more public sector popping up in there? Because I know just one thing I want to mention, in addition to Workday, obviously, doing FedRAMP and pushing into public sector, UKG's on that path as well. So
Yeah.
I don't know about Dayforce. I can't remember if they're already there. They may already be there, given
Oh, they definitely have.
they're already doing
decent,
some work in Canada,
recent.
obviously. So but are you seeing that anything there? Any trends with public sector?
So yes, I do. And I would say last year, at least in the SSOWs, because of course we weren't back to the HR ones, the SSOW group is very good at co-locating some events. So this particular HR event was co-located with some AI an AI for finance event. But last year, we had at least one of the main events that was co-located with education and public sector. And so
Okay.
when that happens, kind of like being up and down the strip, the way you split your time, right, between Dayforce and UKG, then you have practitioners who can actually split their time and they stagger, some of the activities and some of the events so that, if you have an interest, you can attend some very specific public sector or education focused items and then also, not miss out on your HR focus.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
So they're good about that. This one wasn't education and public sector. This one was scattered with
Yeah.
some AI. We had just a couple of other highlights from this particular conference. The session that I led with a few practitioners that I want to shout out was on simplifying the HR transformation journey and specifically looking at enhancing the employee experience through that. And so, shout out to the panelists that I worked with, which include Dan Liskuski from Delta Airlines was there. That was kind of like our biggest employer group. They're delivering services to over 300,000 employees if you count retirees in there. SAP based solutions. Morgan Shannon was another one of the panelists from New York Presbyterian Hospital. There are about 42,000 employees and have been on the journey for a little while, doing some very cool things as well. And Adrian Holcomb from Aries Management Corp was on the smaller but very global and fast-moving and M&A side. And so we had a panel that was really diverse and could cover everything from the large to the small market, different technologies in play, different stages in the journey. And every single one of them had something to say about, how they're enabling the journey and lots of good conversation about AI and how they're using AI. Usually it's product specific, right?
Yep.
And so you're trying to manage and deploy the things that you can turn on from your own existing platform. And that just, was, of course, one of the most exciting things that that folks wanted to hear about. And maybe second in the excitement channel is, for me, we had you would have loved the payroll and shared services. Kind of there was a fireside chat on the intersection of payroll and shared services.
Oh, cool.
That really spoke to, kind of the critical strategic role that payroll can play.
Imagine that
in your shared services.
Yeah.
Go figure,
Yeah.
right? So thank you so much. Amy Wang from Mercedes-Benz was in that. Chaitanya Jayanti from Northwestern Memorial Healthcare and Sarah Chasey from Banfield Pet Hospital spoke
Shout
specifically
out, Sarah.
to
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Like they were speaking our language, Pete, on payroll and how much of a transformation lever it can be for employees. And instead of running away from it in your HR shared services, embracing it and recognizing how cool it can be to end up having payroll as part of that.
Yeah. Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So
I love it.
My hope is not only that this becomes annual, it was biannual, I would say, once upon a time. What I've said, I know I've said before to our listeners that this particular conference is practitioners listening to practitioners. That doesn't mean that a person like me doesn't help facilitate conversations and make it easy, so you don't have to do a lot of legwork. So if anyone who's listening has a keen interest in getting involved with the SSONs or has a cool stories to tell, like just reach out to me. And I'll make sure to figure out, make sure you know when next ones are, which ones are next, and work with you to help bring a story forward to some of your peers and participate in one coming up maybe as soon as there's a March one that's an SSOW, a bigger one in March in Orlando, and with any luck, we might have a an early June
Nice.
HR
Yeah.
version again.
Well, see if you can score me a pass. I'd love to go. I'll come
You
show
know it.
up.
You know
Yeah, get me
it.
one. Yeah, we'll do it. And next time you're in Atlanta, we got to get together if I'm not
For sure.
in town. Yeah.
I knew I was gonna miss you
We
this
need to
time, but
record
oh my God.
live again, So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Julie, look, I don't know about you, but I am, this is hopefully, knock on wood, my final trip for 2024. I think I did enough. So yeah, hopefully we can get some real work done. And yeah, I'd just like to call out that we are going to come back this year. We're prepping our Where to Focus in 2025 episode. I think it's been our most popular episode every year. So we're working on that. And of course, I'd love for everyone to come over to payrollinfluences.com and check out the forum over there. We've got some conversations going slowly. And yeah, Julie, what do you got going on?
I'm in Dallas early next week.
Okay.
That's a client related thing. So hoping to maybe see a few folks there. And it's always nice I haven't been down to Dallas in a while. I've been doing a little more Houston. So happy for that. That might be my last one of the year, my last official event, because the NARES event that used to be in December has moved itself to spring. So maybe getting caught up.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm the bottleneck in some of the things that I work on with clients.
I got so many things I want to do, just personal things I want projects I want to work on. So yeah, we got to get together. I got some things I want you to work with me on, excuse me.
Great. You're great at voluntolding me.
Yes. Yeah.
It actually is wonderful.
Well, we're gonna work on our video channel. We're gonna bring up we're gonna bring all of our video content onto a YouTube channel for the show. So we won't necessarily put all of these audio only episodes, which is most of them. We're gonna bring all the video content. So like the work that we did with Jason Lee, some of the other recordings we've done around the industry, we're gonna bring all that in. And I've got a couple of points of view that I want to share on video. Julie, I'm sure you've got some, and I know we're going to do some together. So yeah, look for that content to come soon as well.
Excited for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this was a long one, but you know what? When the conference season's coming around and there's updates and there's so much to do and say, it's just really helpful to get it out while it's fresh. And then we can loop back in and round in fill in all the missing spots.
Yeah. And look, shoot over your questions. We have, I don't know if our email is still active, but just DM us on Twitter or X or LinkedIn or me or Julie. If you have questions, if you have something you want us to talk about, something you'd like us to cover. I've been getting a lot of feedback from folks I've been meeting who listen to the show for education, for market updates, for all different reasons. And so if we can help, just let us know. Reach out, give us the feedback. We'd love to shape things. And we've got a bunch more guests lined up, bunch of good topics lined up. So yeah, stick with us.
Yeah. And, especially you HR and payroll leaders. So I'm just going to say it, folks know we're not a commercialized
Nope.
podcast or product. So don't ping us with the idea that we help spread the word about your product.
Yeah, right. It's not. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. We're not we're not that show. We're not just interview someone and talk about their product. This is purely around education, and we don't monetize this purposely. We want this to be complimentary, and we want to share our knowledge. Right? We have, we're privileged to be on the front lines of this stuff, and I'm happy to share what I know. I know us pairing together is a great compliment. But yeah, what we want to do is. We want to bring a thought leader point of view. A social media post, a blog, an article is typically what we feed off of. So if we find something that's intriguing that we think is resonating with what our content and themes, we'll pull that, right? So we've typically invited guests on that way. So if you've got a point of view, something resonating, something big out there, shoot it over to us. Let us look at that. It's the best way to get on the show if you're interested. Is we do get a lot of outreach, and it's not. Julie, we've gotten some strange ones. I got one about one time about a doctor in some sort of field of medicine, and I was like, I responded. I was like, what would we talk about? Like, I'm an idiot when it comes to that. Like, I can't help you with the medical stuff, man. But so.
What does it?
I don't remember, man. It was something wacky. And then there was another one time they wanted to bring on some expert in some sort of real estate, commercial real estate. And I was like, what would we
Hey.
talk about. I don't
here's
know.
a challenge.
Yeah.
Stump Pete. See what kind of a weird request you can put in our DM.
Yeah, there you go. No, but look, we're always looking for guests. So certainly, we're not saying don't reach out. We're just saying it's just not the type of show where we're just pitching products, right? We want it to be a robust educational moment for people. So,
all right, time to wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. Yes, good talking to you, Julie, and we'll be back soon.
Sounds great.